There are 4 sales skills that separate top performers from everyone else, and I guarantee at least 2 of them aren't what you think they are. Most sales training technically teaches most of the skills I'm about to reveal, but they often cover them at a surface level. They don't cover any of the great nuances of how great salespeople use them. We've spent over 35 years working on the front lines with sales teams at companies like Cisco and Microsoft, and that experience helped us find the nuances of how expert-level salespeople actually use these 4 skills. And in this video, I pull back the curtain to show you everything we've learned. By the end, you'll have a roadmap for how you can excel with these skills. The first skill is weaving story into pitches. And yes, every sales trainer talks about storytelling. But here's what most get wrong. They tell reps to use stories without explaining what kinds of stories to use, when to use them, or how to use them strategically. And if you just start telling stories because your training told you to, you could actually sabotage yourself. The wrong story at the wrong time can crush your pitch. We've found from our work that great salespeople use 3 kinds of stories at specific times. First, they use customer success stories to establish credibility early in the conversation, but only after they've uncovered the potential customer-specific pain points. Not any old success story will work. The right story places the potential customer at the center of the narrative, helping them see themselves as the hero who could achieve similar outcomes. The key is painting a transformation story that mirrors the potential customer's current reality to their desired future state. Second, when objections come up, top reps resist the urge to defend with data. Instead, they tell a true story about a similar client who raised the same concern and what helped them move forward. Here's an example. One of our clients had the same hesitation. They'd been burned before and were worried about ROI. But after we mapped outcomes to their priorities, they told us, "We almost didn't give this a shot." And it turned out to be the biggest win of the year. No formulas, no scripts, just real-world transformation told with empathy and credibility. Top sellers use short, authentic stories to build rapport, but not by sharing random personal anecdotes or even past mistakes. Instead, they share relatable moments that show they understand the buyer's world. These stories are brief, often about a moment of insight, challenge, or surprise. They don't position the seller as a hero. They position the seller as someone who's walked through uncertainty, asked the tough questions, or helped others do the same. For example, I was working with a CIO last quarter who was hesitant to bring in external training because a previous vendor overpromised and underdelivered. Totally fair concern. What changed her mind was seeing how our pilot approach works so she could test value before scaling. The key? These stories feel natural, not rehearsed. They're deployed during moments of conversation when the buyer is testing if they can trust you, not when they're focused on cost or logistics or approval gates. A great rapport-building story earns you credibility without selling anything at all. The second skill is adaptive listening. Everyone talks about active listening, making eye contact, nodding your head, asking follow-up questions. But here's what most sales training misses. Active listening is actually not helpful. It was originally designed for therapists, not salespeople. In sales, your prospect isn't looking for a therapy session. They have specific goals for every conversation, and great salespeople adapt their listening to meet those goals rather than just through the active listening motions. We've identified 4 types of listening goals that prospects have, and top performers recognize which one is happening and adjust accordingly. The first is support listening. When prospects share frustrations about their current situation or express excitement about potential outcomes, they need support listening. Your job here is to validate their emotions, either commiserate with their pain or celebrate their vision. This isn't about agreeing with everything they say. It's about acknowledging how they feel about their situation. The second, advanced listening. When prospects feel overwhelmed by their decision-making process or timeline pressures, they need advanced listening. They're looking for you to help move the process forward. This might mean taking on tasks to lighten their load, providing next steps, or helping them navigate internal processes. The third is immersed listening. When prospects are giving you detailed information about their technical requirements, company structure, or decision-making process, they need immersed listening. Your job here is to absorb and remember everything without judgment or interruption. Ask clarifying questions for understanding, but resist the urge to start selling. And the fourth is discern listening. When prospects say things like, "What do you think about our approach?" or "I'm not sure which plan is the right fit for us," they need discern listening. They want you to evaluate their situation, provide honest feedback about strengths, weaknesses, and potential alternatives. Adaptive listening is all about moving the conversation forward, specifically towards the goals the other person has. The skill is about learning how to spot those goals and help prospects move towards achieving them, not just showing them you're listening or being present in the moment, although those are good things to do too. The third skill is making data compelling. Most sales reps love to throw around numbers, ROI percentages, efficiency gains, cost reductions. But the greatest salespeople always connect data to emotion rather than just logic. Great salespeople are experts at humanizing data. Instead of saying, "Our solution reduces your department's cost by 45%, great sellers translate the data into something the audience can see and feel. So instead, a great seller might say, "That's like giving your team back 6,000 hours a year, enough time to launch a new product, finally clean up your data backlog, or stop working nights and weekends." See the difference? Same data, completely different emotional impact and weight. It helps people visualize what the data means. Even when you're pitching to data-oriented people, you need more than just logic to persuade them. As Aristotle taught us, effective persuasion requires logic, emotion, and credibility working together. The best salespeople use data as their foundation, but they wrap it in emotional context that makes people feel something. At Duarte, we call this data storytelling, and we made an entire video on it that goes much more in depth about how to form narratives around data. You can watch that by clicking here or in the link in the description. The big thing to remember in the sales context is positioning data so that it connects emotionally. And here are 4 ways you can do that. First, is turning boring percentages into eye-opening comparisons. Instead of 12% improvement in efficiency, say, "You'll save 2 hours every single day. That's an extra month of productivity every year." Second, great salespeople don't just talk about what the data means. They show what happened when that data mattered. Instead of saying, "Our solution reduces errors by 15%, they say, "One of our clients made a small mistake in Q3 that cost them $2 million and nearly triggered an audit. They implemented our solution 6 weeks later, and they haven't had a single red flag since." Gripping anecdotes give your data urgency because now there's a before and after, a human cost, and a path to avoiding it. Another technique great salespeople use is to paint vivid pictures of what life looks like with their solution. Instead of positioning a benefit as 20% faster processing time, they describe your team leaving at 5 p.m. instead of staying late every night, finally having dinner with their families. Finally, they show how the data affects the people their prospect cares about. Rather than saying things like 99.9% uptime, they talk about how their solution makes it to where you never have to make another 2 a.m. emergency call that ruins your weekend and stresses your team. Try these 4 techniques and you'll start seeing your data land and convince people at a much higher rate, I promise. The 4th skill is creating powerful visuals. Most salespeople don't even see this as a sales skill. They assume it's a marketing or a design skill that someone else handles. But top performers understand that the way you present your data visually can make or break your pitch. They see this for the huge opportunity it truly is. You can design every graph, chart, or illustration with 2 non-negotiables: clarity and contrast. First, make sure your visual passes the glance test. Anyone should understand what it's saying in 3 seconds or less. No squinting at tiny labels, no hunting for the key point, no confusion about what they're supposed to see. If your prospect has to work to understand your visual, you've already lost them. Second, Show a dramatic contrast. When your data reveals a significant difference, your visuals should scream that contrast, not whisper it. For example, let's say you're showing how your solution cuts response times from 48 hours to 6 hours. You could create a basic bar chart and call it good. But when you make that contrast visceral, creating a chart where the current bar towers over the new bar like a skyscraper to a house, now it's not just saying 87% improvement. It's a visual story with stakes. And I'm not saying you need to make your data tell lies, but you can show the difference with scale. And as you create that contrast, you connect the dramatic difference to business impact. Going back to our example about 87% improvement in response times, maybe you say something like this as you show the graph. Right now, your customers wait 48 hours. Your biggest competitor responds in 4. That gap is costing you deals because customers assume you don't care. Now, the contrast looks huge, and it means something specific. Skills like these separate the top 1% of salespeople from everyone else. We constantly see massive improvements in close rates when we help our sales teams hone these skills because they start connecting on a completely different level than their competition. And I'm confident that these skills will help you take your sales team to the next level too. If you found this valuable, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more sales insights like this. And if you want to know more about the concept of adaptive listening specifically, which is much deeper than what we were able to cover here, we did an entire webinar called The 4 Listening Mistakes Stalling Your Sales and How to Stop Them. Click the link in the description to watch it now. Until next time.